Good day, good evening, wherever you may be, and welcome one and all. My name is Peter Gerges, and I'm the co-director, along with my colleague, Dr. Mike Gilmore, of Harvard's Microbial Science Initiative. The last year has been one of tremendous upheaval, to put it mildly. The world faced terrible wildfires in Australia and the Western United States. Antarctica saw its highest temperature on record, and of course, the murders of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and many others brought to the fore the persistence of systemic racism around the world, and humankind will be reckoning with these and many other issues for years to come. Of course, the COVID-19 pandemic loomed large over 2020 and 2021, perhaps in some part because the pandemic is caused by a virus that seemingly came out of nowhere. Like other pandemics throughout human history, COVID-19 was responsible for many deaths. It also brought our global economy to its knees and brought our vulnerabilities into sharp relief. 2020 was, on whole, a year in which humanity's vulnerabilities and shortcomings were on full display. Now, conversely, the power of microbes and viruses were, in many ways, also on full display. And if there was ever a year to recognize the importance of microbes and viruses, as well as the people who study them, it's this one. Virologists and microbiologists and many, many other healthcare workers have worked tirelessly to develop vaccines against this coronavirus. They did so by putting the power of microbes to work in the lab, microbes that are workhorses of our research. Microbiology, virology, and molecular biology writ large have made it possible to develop vaccines at an unprecedented, astonishing pace. The Nobel Prize in Chemistry was split between two brilliant pioneering scientists, both women, I might add, who unlocked the power of microbial gene editing systems. Microbes are also responsible for helping humanity, but they make many of the goods that we rely on each day, and advances in microbial biotechnology continue at breakneck speeds, even against the backdrop of a pandemic. But praising microbes for their role in helping humanity really isn't enough, because we need to acknowledge that the biosphere itself, our habitable world, is run by microbes, and that these minuscule microorganisms, organisms that are about 20 orders of magnitude smaller than we are, shape every aspect of our planet's habitats. This symposium is a celebration of microbiology and virology, and the research you will be hearing about today brilliantly shows how Earth is in fact a microbial world. We humans, whether we want to admit it or not, are simply along for the ride. Throughout this symposium, we'll be hearing from extraordinary scientists who were nominated by the MSI microbial community and whose research crosscuts environmental, applied, and medical microbiology. We'll also be hearing from four amazing artists, each of whom is in their own right an amazing microbiologist, but they also enrich our lives and understanding of microbes through the language of art. Like you, I'm very much looking forward to their talks. But before we begin, we would be remiss if we didn't acknowledge the loss of life due to COVID-19, and I would ask you that you join us in just a single minute of silence in remembrance of those who lost their lives. Thank you very much. Now, without any further ado, I'm going to turn the virtual stage over here to my colleague, Dr. Hannah Gavin, who's going to tell you about today's program. Hannah?
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Pete. My name is Hannah Gavin, and I'm MSI's program manager, and I'm really excited to share some of the logistics of today's symposium with you. So as you probably know from seeing some of the materials that we've distributed, we have two major scientific sessions today. And those are divided by a lunchtime program and capped off with a happy hour that will occur in the evening. In each session, we'll have 3 research talks and 2 sci-art features, which will be interspersed between those research talks. Now, at the end of a given research talk, we might have time for 1 or 2 questions, but if you don't fit yours in, don't feel worried, because we've set aside 45 minutes at the end of each session where we'll talk amongst all 3 of the researchers who have given presentations in that session. They will be able to ask questions of each other, and you will be able to ask questions of them. So we've got plenty of time set aside for Q&A towards the end of the session. Now, whether or not regardless of the time zone you're on, feel free to join this lunchtime program. Maybe it's more like an evening time program for you, but we've got an awesome family-friendly microbe trivia hour lined up, which will be a really good time. So if you want to grab a family member, grab a snack, and join us for that, it will be excellent before we proceed to session 2, which will be in the same format as the first session. And we've also got a happy hour set up in a separate Zoom call. And you can find the information for that Zoom call in the reminder email that you received, the automated reminder email that you received from Zoom about this webinar. If you scroll down to the end of that, you can find the info for the happy hour. Now, thinking about some tips for enjoying and participating in the virtual symposium today. If you haven't gotten it already, we have available a full symposium program, including biographical information and contact info for all of our researchers and sci-artists. And that can be found on our website at msi.harvard.edu/annual symposium. You can also easily navigate there from the homepage. If you'd like to use them, subtitles and closed captioning can be enabled by using a link at the bottom of your Zoom screen, one of the tools in that bottom toolbar. If you have questions for a speaker, I hinted at this before, but feel free to make use of the Zoom Q&A feature as questions occur to you. I'm going to really encourage you to, if you want to type in a question, use the Q&A as opposed to the chat, so that we can make sure we log those questions. Now, if you want to get it down on, I was going to say paper, if you want to type it in while it's on your mind, feel free to do so during the person's talk. Just keep in mind that we might not get to it until the panel Q&A session. During that 45-minute panel Q&A, you're also welcome to virtually raise your hand, and at which point we'll invite you to unmute and ask your question aloud, which helps us feel a little bit like we're more in a community too, so you're very welcome to do that. I've already told you about the evening happy hour. So before we get to the first talk, the last thing that I want to do is give a couple of partner spotlights here, which will intersperse throughout the program today. One of our partners who you will be hearing from at our trivia hour is Skype a Scientist. The mission of Skype a Scientist is simple yet impactful: to make science accessible and fun through personal connections with scientists. We are an educational entity with a focus on connecting the general public with scientific disciplines in fun and meaningful ways, making science education available and engaging for everyone. We want to give students the opportunity to get to know a real scientist and get the answers to their questions straight from the source. Skype a Scientist creates a database of thousands of scientists and helps them connect with teachers, classrooms, groups, and the public all over the globe. Scientists, teachers, and groups of families of any size can sign up to participate in Skype a Scientist programs at www.skypeascientist.com. I'll also highlight the Harvard Museums of Science and Culture. The mission of HMSC is to foster curiosity and a spirit of discovery in visitors of all ages, enhancing public understanding of and appreciation for the natural world, science, and human cultures. HMSC works with Harvard faculty, museum curators, and students, as well as with members of the extended Harvard community, to provide interdisciplinary exhibitions, events, and lectures, and educational programs for students, teachers, and the general public. HMSC is seeking scientists who want to share their stories through a wide range of media. Occasional opportunities for podcasts, social media, e-news stories, and live webinars exist. And they're especially interested in highlighting diverse stories, including from bilingual Spanish-English speakers. So to learn more about that, you can find contact information for both of these partners on the annual symposium